All right, I'm working on the, it's a Jonsered 2149 that I'm putting a 346 top end on, and well, a cheap clone of a top end on it, porting it up and all that fun stuff. I just got done pressure washing it. I mean, she's still dripping, you know. But before I go any further here, I gotta hit it with some WD-40. When you do this, especially if you're going to leave it sit for a little bit, you need to WD-40 your bearings and stuff on the bottom end to displace the water off of the bearing. Just to help prevent any rust buildup. So I'm just giving her a little squirt of WD-40 in that bottom end, in the bearings and stuff, and going to rotate her around, make sure it's worked in good. All right, I think we're good. Now we gotta get this piston swapped out. I need to get this original piston off. I gotta get this aftermarket one on so I can start working on setting the squish. That's what our object here is today, is to get this squish set. So I gotta start by getting the pistons swapped out. And in case you're wondering, I'm sure somebody out there has is kind of asking that question in their head, probably getting ready to do a little research. The 2149 piston it's a different bore size. So it will not work. I cannot keep this piston. I have to swap the piston. There she is, the piston, the ring clip. Look, there's nothing wrong with that piston. A little bit of carbon on the sides, but that's from the transfers, I think. Transfer flow. I'm going to stick that in this clip. I'm going to stick all that in this top end and save it. You know what I mean? So I'm going to stick the whole piston and everything in there. I'm just going to have to be careful because I got to pull that compression release off and this off for whenever I'm at the final stages. I got to swap those parts out. So I'll just have to be careful I don't lose those things. There we go. I just put the parts down in and shoved the piston in there as kind of like a lid. And all my parts are together right here. I can save that for possibility of some other project. You never know what's going to come down the road. But now I got to get this other piston on. There's our wrist pin. Don't need to use the clips or none of that stuff yet. I'm just going to slide the wrist pin through, stick the piston on. I'm going to use 2 bolts on the cylinder and bolt it down. I'm not going to use a base gasket, which if you were going to use a base gasket, you would want to put that down. It's just I end up bolting the cylinder on and off so many times that a lot of times I end up having to buy another gasket to replace it because I end up screwing it up. So I just kind of got in the habit of just not even bothering anymore. You know what I mean? All right, piston's on. Here's your cylinder. Remember, we got our combustion chamber work done. Now we got to do the base and get everything set. The flywheel is making contact with the cylinder right here. So we're going to have to do something there. I'm going to see if it'll go on first. Got all my bolts and stuff stuffed in this box. The work that I'm about to do, the machine work I'm about to do, is going to make that situation even worse. So I'm going to have to do an adjustment. Oh, maybe it isn't touching. It's freaking close though. I might have just had it sitting on there just slightly crooked, you know what I mean? All right, I got her all bolted down. The flywheel is not touching the cylinder, but it is really close. So I might have to make an adjustment. But right now, I'm good. So first thing I gotta do is gotta get my solder in here and see if I can find a squish number. This solder is probably too small. So let's see. Yeah, it didn't even try to make contact. All right, so the solder was too small, so I just gave her a little twisty. I'm gonna stick that in there and I'm gonna see if that'll work. that's hitting, making contact. I'm getting a squish. All right, I'll have something to work with that. Yeah, I got something to work with there. Now I gotta put these trusty things on. I cannot see squat without some sort of a cheater. Let's check our squish number right now. So it's not going to be the most accurate right now, but looks like we're at 80. I'd say we're at 80, right on the money. Yeah, I'm pretty much exactly at 80 thou. So we need to do a little machine work to the cylinder base. Let's go ahead and get it knocked off of there. You want to talk about something I find kind of funny? This is a cheap aftermarket cylinder. I know what to expect. You know, there's casting flaws and stuff. But if you look at the intake, I don't know if you can see it. See that in the intake? Just a bit rough. There's people out there that will look at stuff like that in their cylinder. It's like an end of the world moment. It's like crazy. It gets like blown up into something it really is not. You spent how much money on the freaking thing? What do you expect? You're buying a, you know what I mean, old broken down old Pinto and expecting a Ferrari or something. You know what I mean? But yeah, I've seen a lot of people get extremely bent out of shape over the, you know, the casting issues of cylinders and stuff like that. And I'll be honest, I just don't see it. I don't see the point of it, really. If you can't deal with these things, then you probably shouldn't be porting. You know what I mean? Don't get all bent out of shape when you see issues, though. That's just something, you know, it's just something along your path that you got to work out and deal with. You know what I mean? That'll be gone by the time I'm done. And even if that was perfect, it would still be gone by the time I was done. You know what I mean? A perfect finish would still be gone. I'm going to do my own thing. So I don't care, you know, if there's a little bit of a flaw in there, I'm going to just blast right through it because I could care less. But it's the folks that see stuff like that and it's like, you know, this end of the world moment, I don't get it, you know, I just don't get it. But let's go ahead, let's get moved over to the lathe, and we got to get 60 off, so we're going to start at 50. The first cut that I'm aiming for here is going to be about 50,000. So let's go ahead and get her on. All right, we're at the lathe here, and this is the mandrel I'm going to use. See a lot of aluminum, you know, people make and stuff. This one's wooden. I might have to face it off though. Might have to face the end off. We'll see how she lines up. But that's the mandrel I'm using. Made out of wood. I got to make sure that this surface is nice and perfect though, because I need and this one. I think this one's good, but when we put it in here, we're going to see if it's all wee wobbly. I got to do some work. It's wood. It'll move around. I've used this thing a lot though. I've probably turned many a cylinder with this mandrel. Alright, I got some wee wobbling going on. Right now I'm pushing this surface flat against the chuck. And I think my surface, I can see it, it's got a bubble to it. I think I'm going to have to face it off. Yep, that's what I gotta do. I gotta face it off. So I'm gonna get this guy loosened up a little bit. Bring this in. And I'm just doing this to get everything centered, if you know what I mean. This old wooden, this mandrel is a couple of years old, so it's getting a little out of shape. I just need to chew it up a little. Look at that. Spinning perfectly now. Just using a piece of wood, you know. Just what I've been doing is I've been starting with like a bigger one, and then over time I just whittle it down smaller and smaller. And I've been using wooden ones since I started this. I got some material to make some plastic ones, but you can buy aluminum and make them out of aluminum. But I mean, a piece of wood works. That's all I'm doing. So now I just gotta get my tooling set up to make this cut. All right, so we want to start with a 50/1000 cup. And what I'm going to do is I'm basically just going to measure this. See the intake, this little ear? I'm going to measure the thickness of that. So I'm taking a measurement here, and it comes up at that 80 sound number there. So we're going to take it until it hits the 30 right there. And in the last 10 here, we'll fine tune it for that. We'll take it a little bit at a time until we get it. We're going to go for 20, right around 20. Let's see what happens. Let's go ahead and fire it up. Start cutting. I'm going to start on the inside. This cut right here is just a real light pass. Just basically shaving off a little bit of the roughness. Now, I'm going to bring her in a little. There's screws over here to adjust how tight this whole post is. I just tighten them up a little bit so I can feel a little slop in it. Now with my lathe, it's better off for me to go from the inside out. It gives me a better result. All right, let's see how much we took off. Remember the intake port? We're going to measure that thickness right there in that ear. So we were at 80. We're now down to the 50 is where we're at. So we got 30 off. We need to take another 20. All right, intake port. We're gonna measure it at that ear. We are just a hair above the 30. It's probably like 32. I'm just gonna go ahead and make another lathe pass. Alright, so I need to remove some material down here at the skirt because I just moved all that up. I want to make sure I get some off at the skirt. Alright, there's what she's looking like. We had to make a cut here because, you know, we dropped the whole thing down in deeper. We need to make sure we cut this edge too. I got to hit this edge with sandpaper before I try to bolt it on because it could cut the piston or scratch the piston. So I just rubbed sandpaper over the edge. And then we're going to go over, we're going to bolt it on and check our squish again. Alright, we're ready to check the squish, see where we're at. I'm surprised that flywheel's not rubbing though. Or maybe it is. What was that? Something's hitting somewhere. Alright, I think I am touching now. There's a spot that I'm feeling it's hitting something. I think it's the flywheel on the cylinder. So, yep, we have to do something. But I'm good though, because I can still check my squish. It still rotates at top dead center. It's almost bottom dead center whenever it hits. So I'm good to check my squish. Let's check her. She's feeling pretty close. $30. Dead on 30 thousandths. So we gotta get 10 more off. Let's go put her back on the lathe and go for another 10. All right, I made another trip to the lathe. I'm back over here to check the squish. See what she comes at. I made a little tweak to the side of the cylinder for clearance, but there's two little bumps sticking out of the flywheel that I'm gonna have to get in there. I don't want to take it all off the cylinder. I'm going to take it off the back of the flywheel for the rest. I made a little bit of a clearance on the cylinder, but I need to finish the clearance issues on that flywheel. But otherwise, I think we'll be fine. So let's go ahead, double check our squish here. I'm going to call that close enough. You know? Close enough. We're going to go with that. What is that? What was that? Like 21, 22 thou? Close enough for me. You know what I mean? It ain't worth the effort. to get that little bit. So I'm gonna say our squish is good. Now I gotta fix that flywheel issue. It's right here. Can you see it in the flywheel? Let me show you. I'm trying to show you, I should say. See that little round circle thingy? And there's another one. The back side of those sticks out just a tiny bit and it's hitting the cylinder. So I just got to hit it real quick with some sandpaper or something, the Dremel, and we'll be good. Now I got to take the cylinder off and it's time to start porting it. Not on this video. I actually got to go inside and finish dinner. I got chicken cooking and me and the boys are starting to get hungry. It's due to come out of the oven in probably 20 minutes, so I got to get in there. I got to get the rest of the food done. So I might come back out this evening, start the port work, or it might be tomorrow or something, but once the porting is done, we can put it back together. So stick around, we're going to be porting it next. We're grinding on it, or whatever you want to say. Machine work, I'm going to consider it done. So, all right, later.